successfully on the road. Woo! No idea how fast we're going. Whew. It is a beautiful 10 out of 10 fall day out there. What better day than to get some more work done on the 69 Camaro. So if you guys remember in the last video, we basically knocked out all the interior wiring and most of the interior. Got all of the Holley Terminator wiring integrated into the stock 69 Camaro wiring, hidden away neatly under the center console. Same thing behind the dash where my Holley Pro dash will go, so that'll be coming soon. Got some nice pedal covers installed, carpet, trim pieces, seats, seat belts, custom center console, shifter boot, shifter trim bezel, shift knob. My radio's working, my Pioneer double din. Basically 100% complete minus the dash, and it looks awesome. Psyched about how this came out. So now that the car runs, it's time to tie up a few more loose ends. The main one in this video is going to be exhaust. You know, you guys have heard the initial starting and driving video of this car, and it sounds insane. But it's a little loud, and you know, we got to put some exhaust out the back, get an X pipe on there. So that's gonna be the focus of this video. But before we do that, I'd like to get this hood on, because it was on top of the car for most of the winter, but I've since moved it over here, and it's a miracle that it hasn't been stepped on or damaged or anything yet. So I'd really like to get it back on the car, off the floor. And before I do that, there's two other things I'd like to do. I'd like to get my catch can mounted, which means it's finally time to put on my nice gloss black valve covers that I made. And after we're done with that, we can get the wiper motor reinstalled, because it'll obviously be a lot easier to be working on the rear firewall when there's no hood on here. So I'd like to knock those out and then put the hood on, and we can move the car over to the lift bay, get to work on the exhaust. Got a whole bunch of parts for that, which I'll show you in a second. But first, let me show you what I got for a catch can setup. So here's what we got. My smooth valve covers, which have been sitting collecting dust over on the workbench for the better part of 4 or 5 months now. If you guys remember, I welded on these 10AN bungs in preparation for this. Even put little baffles in there to keep oil out. So you just want the vapors coming out, not the oil itself. Got a very cheap Amazon catch can with some 10AN bungs on it. There's your filter, some assorted AN fittings of different angles that I think are gonna work. Think 5 feet of 10AN hose. There's your bungs and your drain, and then there's my hardware for the valve covers. So this should be everything we need. So basically all I need to do is decide where I'm gonna mount this, and I think I already got a spot for it. Somewhere right over here, next to the fuel pressure regulator. Should look neat and tidy right on the firewall. And I mean, a catch can is not really necessary on an application like this, especially an NA application, but you know, I'm always trying to think ahead. If I ever wanted to boost this car in one form or another, you're gonna want a catch can. I always like these smooth LS valve covers, which means you basically eliminate the stock PCV system. It doesn't have those fittings. So if you don't do these bungs, you don't have any sort of positive crankcase ventilation. So like I said, not really necessary on this car, but I think basically everything here cost me under $45. So easy enough to do. And then we're ready if we ever want to boost this application down the road. And it looks much cleaner than the stock PCV connections, which are, see, there's one of them back there. And this one right here, which normally goes to, I think, this evap solenoid, which would normally be over here. But we got rid of all that. So Let's get our catch can mounted, get our AN lines made, get those valve covers on, get the wiper motor back in, get the hood on, get this thing ready for some exhaust work. Holy crap, she's got a hood on her. A hood with 9 months worth of dust, mind you, but a hood nonetheless. Car looks complete for the first time since January. Got the hood on there, all the gaps look good, lines up really nice. Broke a hole through my plastic here so I could pop the hood. And we made some progress under here too, finally. Got those beautiful black valve covers on there, both sides. Ran into a slight problem. Now that the hood's on, it's gonna be real dark, but anyways, let me get the flashlight for you guys. So we got our catch can mounted up down there, tucked in next to the fuel pressure regulator. Over here on the driver's side, I had to use a 10 AN 120 degree fitting to kind of clear under the wiper motor there, which I just gave a fresh quick coat of flat black. I got rid of the washer fluid tank, which was over here, and the motor just now. So that cleans up that a little bit. I might do like a Detroit Speed wiper motor, something that's a little bit smaller, but that might be down the road a little bit. That'll do just fine for now. Anyways, 10 AN from the driver's side valve cover over to here. And I had a bunch of 90 degree fittings, but I really didn't like how they kind of jutted out over here towards this last primary. So basically what I did was I ordered 3 more 120 degree fittings. That way this one will kind of go straight down here. These ones will kind of curl back here, and it should look much more nice and tidy. So while we wait on those, I mean, that should be easy even with the hood on, easy to access. All the hard, tough to reach areas over there are done. So all I'll have to do is cut this line to length, make a really short line from this valve cover down to there, call the PCV system done. Other than that, we're looking pretty tidy in here. Still need to get this AC compressor evacuated. This thing's been kicking around since the original motor, but I'll get that evacuated once we have the car running and driving on the road. And then I'll hook up the one that's below there, and that should really tidy all this up. But for now, we gotta put an exhaust on this thing, which I got all unboxed over here. So basically what I ordered was, this is all 304 stainless, so I'm gonna be TIG welding all this together as far as I know right now. Went with a universal 3-inch X pipe kit, which is basically this right here. So it comes with a few bends, a couple 180 degree bends, an X pipe here, TIG welded in the center. Got your X in the middle there. All your clamps. And then I ordered just a 3-inch 304 stainless steel universal exhaust pipe kit. So it's going to come with 2 long straight sections, which should get us to the back of the car, and a few more bends to get us. I believe I'm going to go under the axle, but we'll get the car up on the lift, take a closer look. So I should have all the bends I need, clamps. Even ordered some nice exhaust hangers. Got some V-band clamps so I can hopefully put a section, or split this up into a section right around the rear axle area. Some mufflers, if you want to call them that. These are basically the same mufflers that I put on the CTSV, for those of you guys that were around for that series, just a little bit longer. So this is, I think, a 16-inch 304 stainless, but it's a bullet style muffler. Yeah, it looks like it does some amount of muffling, so that's good. Yeah, basically a straight through design, but it should sound pretty good. If it's too loud, we can always add more or change up the mufflers, but I figured I'd start with these. We want this thing to sound like a muscle car, you know? We can't be having it be too quiet. And then I also got some double wall slash cut 4.5-inch exhaust tips. I was thinking about doing 4-inch, but I'll show you guys when the car's up in the air. The previous exhaust setup was molded basically into the rear bumper, and it had oval tips, so there's a large area that needs to be filled. So I figured I'd try the 4.5 and see how that looks. Basically, should have everything we need, as far as I know, right here to put together a badass 3-inch stainless exhaust system for this car. So yeah, what we got to do now is fire the car up, get it over here into the lift bay, get it up in the air, and start figuring the system out. Well, as good as this thing sounds, I think it's a little bit loud for, you know, cruising. So let's get it up in the air, see what we can't do about an exhaust system. Car is airborne, so let's get under here and come up with some sort of plan. So basically what I'd like to do is come off the headers into an X pipe in this area, straight back. I don't know where I'm gonna put the mufflers yet, probably kind of close to the X pipe, then straight back. Under the axle, I think, is the way to do it. Some guys try and go up and through here, but I really don't think you gain any ground clearance because the lowest part's gonna be where the floor is anyways. So most guys just come right through this area under the axle with the 4-link and come up through here and up out to the tips. These are the ovals I was telling you about. Actually, let me grab one of those tips. I'll show you how much you need to fill in that area. This is a 4.5-inch tip, and it, you know, like I said, it fills in that thing pretty good. We'll see how it looks once the car's on the ground. I could always go down to a 4-inch if I wanted to, but I was afraid that a 4-inch wouldn't fill this hole very well. So that's the plan. I think the first thing, I also finally bought one of these under vehicle poles instead of using my office chair over there. So hopefully this can help kind of hold different portions of the exhaust as we finish it. I think we'll probably do one hanger out here, and then another hanger somewhere in this area. And then obviously up here is supported by the headers. But first thing, we got to come up with an X pipe design. Like I said, I think I'm going to put the X probably right behind the transmission, right about here. And we'll use these pre-bent pieces to get over there. What I do need to do is, at least on this side, I think we need to slice off those slip joints, because we're not going to be using those. I've already got my V-bands on here, and like I said, I think we might do one more V-band connection back there. So let's get out the bandsaw, get our Sharpie, all the fabrication tools we know we're going to need, start, mocking this up and seeing what we come up with. Well, looky here, got ourselves an X pipe. So here's where we're at so far. Basically just used, trying to keep this, as most exhaust systems should be, trying to keep it symmetric all the way back. We're doing a pretty good job so far. Basically just used 245s right off the headers, right out of our V-bands here. Had to add a little bit of a straight section on this side, and then a slightly shorter straight section right there, right into this pre-made X pipe. And then I've kind of cut two other 45s a little bit short here to get us going back down the rest of the length here. Probably end up welding all this up where these supposed to be clamps. I don't know, I'm leaving them kind of loose for now so we have as much adjustment as possible as we go back. I think that most guys with 4-links, especially running a 3-inch exhaust, end up running under the axle. You really don't lose any ground clearance, and if you try and snake up through here, especially once you get into a mini tub, which we're gonna definitely eventually end up doing in this car, just imagine the tire is now gonna come out to here. So you basically have to try and squeeze through here with the articulation of the spring. As the suspension moves up and down, it can get really, really tight. If we do the mini tub and we find we still have room, I can do that down the road. The bends will pretty much be the same. Just basically 45 here, 45 up, and then out the exhaust. But for now, I think we're gonna go right under the axle. Like I said, you basically have this whole area. You're not losing any ground clearance, and ground clearance on this car is phenomenal as is, especially when compared to like my C6, which is, basically on the ground. So right now, plan is to come straight back out through here, put the muffler right in here in this section, kind of under the rear seat area, where you have a little bit more clearance right here, and then have the pipe basically end right here. I think I'm gonna put a hanger right here off the rear seat belt too. And then from here, we're basically gonna come up around the notch gas tank. If you guys have been here on the channel for a while, I put in this notch tank, and that's exactly why they make this tank like that, is so that you can get, if this tank wasn't notched, you'd be really tight getting 3-inch exhaust through there. So this is why you plan ahead a little bit in your builds, get the notch tank, because you're going to be doing exhaust through there just like I did. So basically the pipe will come out right about here, kind of angle up like that. And we'll do one more 45 if I flip this around, hopefully, and then right out the bumper. Easier said than done. I'm sure I'll fight with this thing for hours and hours getting the bends and you know, cuts and welds and everything right, but that's the plan. So let's talk more exhaust work. Let's get back to this and get the exhaust run out the back of the car. All right, another quick update. So we've moved on from the X-pipe. We've got some straight section that kind of branches off from the X-pipe, comes into our dual 16-inch bullet mufflers, which I've got hanging basically from the rear seatbelt bolts, which I think is where the exhaust that I took off way back in the day was hanging from too. Perfectly symmetrical, nice and level. We want to make sure it looks good from the back of the car and it tucks up as close as possible to the floor hopefully without banging on the floorboards. So I think we're looking good there. I think what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna add a V-band on each side right here so we can basically disassemble the tailpipes or keep the tailpipes separate from all this. So I think I'm gonna probably weld eventually the entire X-pipe all together. So really this exhaust will come down in two pieces, from here to the headers and then from here to the tailpipes. It leaves us a little bit of adjustment if we need it. So I think that's gonna be the best way to do it. So yeah, let's keep working. Let's weld a V-band on each side of these, and then I think it should be a relatively easy 45, and then hopefully another 45 and basically out to the tailpipe. So yeah, I've got all this tack welded, so let's keep working on making our way up to the tailpipes, get these V-bands on, and we'll go from there. man, boys. There you have it. Got the exhaust 100% mocked up, tacked together from headers all the way back to the tips. 4.5-inch tips here. I mean, I'm psyched with how this looks. The tips, we'll wait to see how it looks on the ground, but so far I think they look pretty good. Like I said, 4.5 inches was bigger than I would normally go, but had to fill these oval areas here. But man, this looks mean. Kind of reminds me of my old 03, 04 Cobra days, going under the axle, kind of over, up, and out. You know, just with the very right angle, you can kind of see the exhaust. You know, if you ever got down, crouched down, but up in the air, you'd never see that. But yeah, got this all tacked together. Came back from the X-pipe, a couple bends, straight sections, right into the 16-inch bullet mufflers. V-banded here so we can take it apart here. Got some hangers here hanging off the rear seat belts. 45s up under the axle, around the forelink, another 45. Back up out to the tips, another hanger here. Same thing over here. Super happy with how this came out thus far. Looks perfectly symmetrical. Looks really mean with the forelink. I was curious how it would look. You know, kind of creates an X with the forelink on each side, so I love that. So yeah, what's left to do? Tons and tons of welding. This is all tacked together nice and solid, but every single one of these joints has to be welded. We got to cut these hangers down, weld those in, and just pray that nothing moves. So I think my plan is to, same kind of thing, start from the front and head back. I think I'm gonna fully clamp this X-pipe just as it is using the supplied clamps, and also mark these with a Sharpie so that I know that nothing is gonna move. And then, I mean, hopefully none of these tacked areas should move. Nothing else. We have a little bit of adjustment with the V-bands, but that's my plan. So yeah, without further ado, let's see if we can't finish this exhaust project out. It's a little late now. I doubt I'll finish today or tonight. I'm gonna clean up a little bit, put some of these pipes away. Here's what we got left. Didn't use any 90s or 45, so I guess I'll have to save these for another project. About $400 for both kits, you know, the X-pipe and the exhaust kit. We'll say I used about half of it. Still have tons of straight pipe left. Well, one of the 2 4-foot sections left. So for not too much money, full exhaust system here. I'm happy with that. Let's fire up the welder, start burning this thing in, and see how it sounds sooner than later. But real quick, before we do that, probably a good idea to get this thing on the ground. Suspension moves around a little bit. It is a little bit tight in some areas. I don't think we'll have any issues, but man, would it suck to burn this all in and realize we have to cut it all up. So better to find out now. So let's get this thing on the ground. First of all, I guess see how the tips look on the ground, see what kind of ground clearance we have, and make sure there's no interference, and we'll go from there. Shoo! Man, that looks mean from the rear. But yeah, I got this thing on the ground. No issues at all that I can see. Looks like we really haven't lost any ground clearance. The exhaust hangs pretty much parallel with the pumpkin. No issues with the forelink. We've got plenty of clearance to the shocks on both sides. Hopefully you guys can see this here, but the exhaust all the way through the X-pipe area is basically parallel with the frame. So still need to get some subframe connectors for this car. So that's on the list. But anyways, once we get those, you probably won't even see this, but it really did tuck up nicely. I did my best to basically make it hug the floor, and you know, tons and tons of ground clearance around here. No issues that I can see. I bounced up and down on the trunk. Same thing on the front, so I think I got the suspension mostly settled. No clanking, banging, nothing that I can hear. So I think we got clearance everywhere. So like I said, I think I'm gonna start at the X-pipe, just start welding, start putting stuff on and welding my way back from the X-pipe back. And just hopefully it ends up exactly how it is right now, fully welded. We can start it up. You know what? I think when I finish welding the X-pipe, we'll do a quick startup too. Just so we know what it sounds like with an open X-pipe. And then we'll weld the rest of it. But let's talk. Let's get to welding. All right, X pipe is welded up in the car, hooked up, nice and solid. So why not start it up and just for fun, see how this thing sounds with an open X pipe. We'll see if the X pipe changes the sound at all compared to open headers, and then get back to work welding up the rear sections and we'll call this done. But just for fun, let's lower this thing down, fire it up real quick, see how it sounds. All right, open 3-inch X pipe. Okay, still way too loud. Might have even gotten louder. Yeah, that's loud. Maybe we should continue putting the rest of the exhaust back on. Sounds good, still too loud. But we knew that, just wanted to hear how it sounded. But yeah, let's throw the helmet back on, get our long sleeve shirt back on, and get back to welding. Well, it's another beautiful fall morning here in New England. Pretty much finished the exhaust late last night, but I was smoked and had a couple last little things to do this morning. So we just finished it up this morning and man, does it look sharp. Exhaust is 100% complete from the headers all the way back to these beautiful 4.5-inch tips. I even did the old 0304 Cobra exhaust mod, polished the area under the pipes that will be visible from the back. Everything's welded up, including the hangers. The fit is absolutely perfect and symmetric all around. I really like how the tips look from the side. We'll see how they look on the ground, but the exhaust is done, fully welded, many hours of welding later. Everything fits really nice. Took my time, you know, kind of refit stuff a whole bunch of times as I built the exhaust from the front to the back, and it paid off. We're super tight to the floor and really didn't lose any ground clearance as far as I can tell. So everything's fully welded, everything's tight. This thing is rock solid, good clearance everywhere as far as I can see, and obviously clearance to the axle will be even better. This is as low as the axle can go, so as soon as it's on the ground, we should have even more clearance. But yeah, as good as it looks. I cannot wait to hear how this thing sounds. Hopefully it's got a good tone with the X-pipe, some bullet mufflers all the way back through the tips. I'm sure, hopefully it's still pretty loud, but hopefully it's more bearable and drivable. And we're about to find out, so let's get this thing on the ground, start it up. Alrighty, we're back on the ground. I just wanted to update the tune real quick. If you guys remember in the first video where we got this running, we had to basically eliminate base fuel learn and closed loop because our O2 sensor was literally right at the collector and obviously the readings wouldn't be right. But now that we have a full exhaust on this thing, the O2 readings should be accurate and should help this thing to kind of learn on its own and improve on the base tune. So I've basically just enabled closed loop and learn again, just wrote that to the ECU, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna put you guys outside. Let's see how this thing sounds. Damn good, much more reasonable. Let's let her get up to temp and see if the tune changes at all. All right, guys, we got her warming up. You can see that I set the closed loop. To enable at, what was it, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. We're at 171 now. You can see the air fuels are starting to match the target. Running pretty smooth. All right, guys, we're letting the car cool down a little bit. In the meantime, I got those 120 degree AN fittings came in. So let's I made these AN lines real quick. These are 10 AN lines, go to our catch can that we mounted last week. So let's get these installed and call this PCV system done. doing something. Sounds smooth. It was running rich earlier. It does not seem to be running as rich now, which is good. Just some condensation in the exhaust. Shoo! Catch cans in, can't remember if I showed that or not. Looks nice. Be doing something about this here shortly. Man, it's good to see this thing outside, the hood on, no saran wrap on the fenders, sounding like this. Check a few things, and then I guess we'll maybe take it down the road. You guys know I've really only driven this thing in total, regardless of the motor setup in it, like a half a mile. So it's going to be a lot of things we're going to be wanting to watch out for, but we'll see how it goes. But I'll see you guys inside the car. All right, we're strapped in. Let's see what happens. Stage 4 cam, basically no tuning, lurches a little bit. Well, we are officially on the road. Oh, this thing sounds good. First drive in my Camaro. No idea how fast we're going, but seems smooth, no horrible vibrations, no banging on the exhaust on the suspension or floorboards yet. Just take it down the road, not get in too much trouble. There's third gear. There's fourth gear. Woo! The 69 is alive, baby! Woo! Man, what a beautiful fall day for this. All right, well, let's loop it around here, get back to the house and make sure nothing's on fire. Check out the tune and we'll go from there, but this is a success so far. Just easing on it, but I love how this thing sounds. Temp 191, staying nice and cool. The Holly's doing its thing, it's making fuel adjustments. Car feels pretty tight. Like I said, no clunking, no banging. Drive shaft seems to be balanced correctly. There's no vibrations. We're probably doing 40, 45 miles an hour. Exhaust isn't terribly loud in here yet. Take that as a win, boys. Woo! Crispy downshifts. Brakes feel good. Does want to die coming to a stop. we're back. Looks good. Well, doesn't get much better than that, boys. Successful exhaust installation, custom from the headers back. Looks fantastic, sounds fantastic, doesn't hit anywhere on the body. And we just had our official real first test drive on the real public road, not just up and down the driveway with headphones on. So I think that's more of an official ELS swap project live. Drove it down the road, runs, drives, stops. Don't need hearing protection to drive it. It was smooth, the brakes felt good. Tune obviously still needs work, but you know, that's gonna come with time. But I'm taking that as a win. You know, we made it from A to B. Exhaust sounds awesome, it looks awesome. I think it looks so mean with the big tips and the, you know, under the axle like that, all polished up, kind of crossing with the 4-link there. Got my vanity plate on the way, so that's neat. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. That was a big step, big project to get done, the exhaust. Making it up and down the road, that's a huge accomplishment. We still have to make a full custom 12.3-inch Holley bezel. Still some nitpicky stuff to get done. This AC, we need to evacuate that and then hook up our AC compressor that's already in there so we can finally clean all this up. I need to put a fill panel in here, a couple things in the interior. And then once we start getting some miles on this thing, we can start tackling some of the cosmetic stuff that I want to do to this car. I've already ordered some parts for that as well. So with all that being said, plenty more to come in the 69 and all the other cars I have in my stable that you guys probably already know about. If not, feel free to subscribe, like the channel, whatever you guys got to do. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.